love that jingle.
We do, and somebody was driving with me and saw the billboard and started singing the jingles. So I think that the billboard advertising, the bus advertising, and the television advertising and radio all kind of work to the benefit of Karl Truman.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
We are taking phone calls right now for Mr. Karl Truman, 276-2118. Karl is here to answer your question.
Absolutely, and if you have a question about personal injury law, Social Security law, there are so many areas of practice, medical malpractice, motor vehicle accidents, and more, workers' comp. Call 276-2118. At this point, we will try to get your questions on the air. We do have emails, though, too, so we kind of have to balance those out. Karl, welcome. We're so glad to see you.
Thanks. Great to be here again.
Excellent to have you. Let's talk just briefly about the fact that when somebody gets rear-ended in Kentucky, they've got a lot to deal with. And it's almost always the fault of the person who does the rear-ending. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, pretty much is. Obviously, if you're behind someone, you have a legal duty to follow a safe distance and not follow too close and anticipate. There is a defense, what's called sudden emergency, that a lot of insurance company lawyers try to bring up and say, oh, well, the person just suddenly stopped in front of me.
Yes.
But for example, let's say you're on the bridge and you're in Spaghetti Junction and the traffic is stop and go all the time and stopping and going. Well, it's kind of hard to claim, oh, they just suddenly stopped in front of me and I didn't know, I couldn't anticipate it. Well, if you're in stop and go traffic like that, you have a duty to anticipate. Obviously, traffic's going to be stop and going. So I kind of laugh to myself when I hear that defense come up a lot, that, oh, they just suddenly stopped in front of me. Well, what do you think's going to happen on the bridge?
Exactly.
Well, here's an email that came up. I was recently rear-ended in a car accident and injured my back, as is often the case. I've been trying to avoid going to the doctor, but it's getting worse, and I think I may have to finally go. What's the procedure for this if I want to pursue damages from the person that hit me? Can I go to my regular doctor, or do I have to go to a specific one through insurance, or what? This comes from Matt in Louisville. Matt, hope you're watching. Here's your answer.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. One of the keys, though, is to be able, if you're having pain, if you delay your treatment, thinking, oh, I can tough it out, it'll get better on its own. Well, actually, the insurance company wants to twist that around and use that against you.
Really?
So, yes, if you try to just tough it out and, a month goes by or 2 months goes by and, you're just not getting better and you're actually getting worse, then the insurance company will throw that back up at us, and say, oh, well, they didn't go to the doctor. If they were hurting, they would go to the doctor right away.
Exactly.
And so we hear that all the time, what the insurance company calls a delay in treatment or gap in treatment, which I think is, very reasonable. If I don't want to run to the doctor, but the reality is that when you have a situation like that, it's best to get it documented right away, whether it's going to the emergency room or going to your primary care doctor or seeing chiropractic care, so you do have a lot of choices, so if you have a regular doctor, primary care doctor, they can send you the therapy. Of course, there's chiropractic care, other medical doctors that really do a lot of motor vehicle accidents. Surprisingly, I run into some family doctors who don't want to deal with automobile accident treatment.
Yes.
Sometimes they actually say, well, if it's a car wreck, I don't want anything to do with it. So, so that's one of the things that we help with, is to make sure that our clients get the proper medical care that they need and see the right specialist.
And Karl, you practice in both Indiana and Kentucky, and it's a huge advantage because we do so much traveling across the bridge, as we were talking about.
And things change when you cross the bridge as
well. Absolutely.
Well, and that's true. And I've just talked to someone just recently who they live in Louisville, but they were in court in Indiana and got in an automobile accident. And so, they since I practice both Indiana and Kentucky, I think I bring a lot of value to that situation because the two laws, to know how the two laws work together. So, for example, you have to deal with the Kentucky PIP, where you live. Personal Injury Protection. Right. PIP is PIP, Personal Injury Protection, which is a whole other topic we can talk about on another segment, which is because that's really important. But understanding how to deal with that and how that relates to the law in Indiana and what's called subrogation, which gets into a whole other issue there. So really we're able to work the two laws together for the best of our interests of our clients.
Wonderful to know. Go ahead.
I was going to
You
say,
took a breath.
I've asked you this question before about workers' compensation. If someone makes a claim and says, you know, I fell at work or I hurt myself, and they possibly get a settlement, and then let's say maybe a year goes by and they're hurt again, or they're still experiencing some sort of pain. Is there anything they could do at that point, or is it once they get settled, that's it?
Well, there's a lot of variables to that, of course, and also there's a big difference between Indiana and Kentucky.
Yes.
You know, and it also depends on how the settlement is written up. And, you know, this also ties into if you live in one state and get hurt in the other state, or if your company's in one state and you get hurt in the other state, how that all works together. But future medical bills is a very important issue. Under Kentucky law, they are responsible for future medical bills. Under Indiana law, they're generally not. But it's of course there's no 100% rule in anything. But as a general rule, typically under Kentucky workers' comp law, they are responsible for future medical bills.
Okay.
You know what's big in the news right now is dog bites. And as a dog owner, I'm always very concerned about keeping control of my animal, making sure that my animal is responsive to my command or to my leash to prevent accidents from happening. But people are bitten by dogs every day.
And sometimes accidents do happen.
Sometimes accidents happen. If it happens on your property, it's one issue. If it happens out in public, it's another issue. What happens if I'm out with my dog, someone approaches me in a manner that the dog considers to be threatening, the dog bites the individual? Is that covered under my homeowner's insurance, or is it a matter for which I can be sued? How does that work, Carl?
Well, of course, you know.
Not that my dogs would ever bite, just to make that clear.
Well, surprisingly, you know, I do a lot of running, and the only time I've ever been bitten by a dog was a little bitty dog.
Isn't that always the way?
That you would think that was no threat at all, and he came up, bit me on my leg.
Right on the ankle.
Yeah, well, right on my calf. But that was the only time, you know. Obviously, you know, I've had some close calls with big dogs, but the only time I actually been bitten was by a little dog.
Isn't that amazing? And
what were your steps?
My friend was just golfing, and this dog ran out on the golf course and bit him in the ankle. It was the same thing. It was like a little Shih Tzu or something.
Yeah.
Crazy. So what do you do?
Well, certainly, obviously, as you point out, you're responsible to keep your dog under control, and there are leash laws, leash ordinances, so you have an obligation to keep your dog under control and on a leash. You know, if you have your dog under control and somebody comes and approaches you, then, you know, certainly you're in a much better position, and you know, you're probably not going to be responsible for that. You know, if your dog is running wild, running free, and runs up like the person in the golf course, and they just run out and bite them, then yeah, you're going to be responsible for what happens.
Amazing to know.
And you know, usually, of course, the little dogs don't, but there's some big dogs that can do some serious damage, and especially with children.
Absolutely.
Very
And
true.
the big dogs always look scarier, but as we say, it's the little ones that'll get you.
Gotta watch
The
out.
little ankle biters.
Literally.
If you have any questions that you would like to email to Karl Truman, you can certainly do so. There's the address. TheTrumanLaw.com is a valuable website, and Karl's also an author of several books. Call 1-800-854-8285 for more information about the Colonel, Karl Truman. You can count on the Colonel. Thanks for being with us today, Colonel Truman.
We're all wearing our flags today.
We are wearing our flags. Happy Flag Day. And we're going to see Karl again next week with more great information. Email questions to him. We'll try to answer them next time he visits.
We'll be right back.